Hello, friends. Today's service for Gary will be officiated by Rabbi Gutman and Cantor Susan Lewis Friedman of both of Templebethzion. Just as a friendly reminder, if you have a cell phone on, please put it on silent mode at this time. Thank you.
Kolo merkara, v'mar ma ekra. Kol basar chatzir v'chol chasto ketzitz hasadeh. Yavesh chatzir navel tzitz ki ruach haronai navshabo. Achen chatzir ha'am yavesh chatzir navel tzitz utvar Eloheinu yikum leolam. A voice says, cry out, and I say, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades when a wind of the eternal blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God shall endure forever. Death has taken our beloved Gary Grelick. And our friends, they grieve in a world that doesn't glitter quite as brightly. In their silence, there's lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. But we pray, lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Gary's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart, his mind, for that smile and wit, that sense of humor that brought joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In times of grief such as this, we follow the traditions of our people. We're commanded to hear the voice of our sacred scriptures that renew for us the message of God's nearness, even in times of darkness, even in times of sorrow. We are kin with our Creator in light, in joy, and in life. Friends, I have the privilege of officiating this morning's rites with our cantor, Susie Lewis Friedman, and with our clergy Associate Emerita, Judy Henn. And as we turn to the voices of our scripture, I'll welcome them to help us raise the spirit of this moment that Gary's soul ever be united eternally with God. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. We continue with the words that speak of the valleys of shadow, as well as the blessings of the moments that we drink so sweet that God is with us always. Feel free to join if you know the words.
God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.
Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bino deshayar bitzeini, al mei menuchot yenach aleini. Nafshi yeshovei, yancheni b'magle tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech begitz al-mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha u'mishantecha, hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zoreroi, tishanta b'Hashem en roshi, kozi rivaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdifuni, kol yemei chayai, v'shavti bebeit Adonai, le'orech yamim.
Friends, how is it possible to encapsulate a life such as Gary's? I hardly think that I could do justice to his awesomeness here in this moment. And this is a great privilege for all of us to be able to celebrate all that he was in his life. Most of all, we're privileged to hear the words of those close to him, to have them share their insights, their reflections, their thoughts as we appreciate and draw forever into our hearts, Gary. And so it's really my privilege and my blessing to be able to hear remarks and words first from his dear younger sister, Susan Grelick.
Good morning. Standing here today as Gary's sister is both an honor, but it is very incredibly difficult. To the world, Gary was a distinguished gemologist, an accomplished athlete, a respected businessman. But to me, he was my older brother, someone I admired my entire life. And to Gary, I was his affectionately designated backup kidney donor, a role he assigned me without consent and without consultation. He would often end our conversations with, "I'll call you if I need a kidney." And that was his way of reminding me that we had a very special bond. He was born in Buffalo on June 20th, 1947, and from an early age, it was clear he was a natural athlete with a very strong sense of what was fair and what was not, especially when it came to sports. In fact, after what Gary firmly believed was a very bad call by his gym teacher, well, let's just say he never would let it go. There were indeed a few slugs exchanged between him and the gym teacher, and in true Gary fashion, he even managed to pin the gym teacher to the wall. At that point, it was lovingly decided that Gary might benefit from a different environment. So off he went to Park School, where he could spend part of each day doing what he loved most, sports. And as it turns out, that was exactly where he belonged. At Park School, Gary flourished, excelling at both basketball and soccer, becoming an all-star athlete known for his talent, his determination, and most of all, his competitive spirit. And in true Gary fashion, even academics found their way back to athletics. For his mandatory senior thesis, he chose the beloved Park School athletic director, Herb Moles, as his advisor, because who better than him? And somehow, not surprisingly, Gary earned an A+ and was allowed to graduate. We were all quite relieved, and even more so when he was accepted to college. Years later, when he was inducted into the Park School Sports Hall of Fame, it felt so fitting. But to those of us who knew him best, he had always been a star. That was Gary, passionate, determined, and always finding a way to turn what he loved into something exceptional. It was a glimpse of the life he would go on to build, one filled with experience, purpose, and heart. He went to Alliance College, where he continued to shine, playing both soccer and basketball. He was captain of the teams. He set records, including 54 career goals in soccer. But more than anything, he was a leader, quietly confident, steady, respected by everyone, always making everybody laugh and inspiring others to perform at their very best. After college, Gary briefly became the soccer and basketball coach at Edinburgh State College in Pennsylvania. And again, in true Gary fashion, he gave it absolutely everything, heart, soul, and perhaps a little more intensity than anyone expected. In fact, he took it so seriously that he ended up in the hospital with a bleeding ulcer. And my father said, only half joking, that bleeding ulcer was the best thing that could have happened because it led Gary to join the family business, ensuring its continuity and setting him on the path where he would go on to do such extraordinary things. In 1970, Gary joined our family's jewelry business, Beaumont Jewelers, founded 100 years ago in 1935 and named for the first two letters of our parents' names, B.O. for Bob and M.I. for Millie. Alongside my father in the historic Ellicott Square building in Buffalo, Gary took the business with his vision, expertise, and passion to an entirely different level. He became a world-renowned gemologist, traveling the globe in search of rare and extraordinary gemstones, always learning, always discovering. Many of those discoveries became exquisite pieces of jewelry, some of which he generously gifted to me: amethyst crystal rings, dendritic quartz rings, fossil-like inclusion quartz with rings, and or even a remarkable 100-carat rubellite, which I'm wearing today, that he gave to me. And that, along with a magnificent amethyst crystal that still stands in the store's doorway today, were some of his real finds. His work was his passion, and it showed in everything he did. He had an extraordinary eye, and he could identify a gemstone just from a photograph alone. He had a gift for finding beauty in the rarest corners of the world. His extensive mineral collection, which I got to view last night, he has thousands of stones and crystals that he's gathered from around the world, and he's meticulously cataloged each one of them, and the collection is really, truly museum quality. One of his most remarkable discoveries was the 8,950-carat stone known as the Beaumont topaz. It stands as a testament to his brilliance. But to me, Gary himself was the rare gem. And what I will always treasure most are the simple moments we shared growing up. I remember Gary as the protective older brother, taller, confident, capable, and always just a little bit ahead of me in everything he did. Whether it was sports, school, or later in life, his career, he set the standard. I'll admit, it wasn't easy trying to keep up with him, and even to try to even get a little attention. But I may not have told him often enough, but I looked up to him in so many ways. There was a steadiness about Gary. You always knew he would figure things out. You always knew he'd be successful in anything he did. He encouraged everyone he met to try a little harder, to set goals that felt just out of reach, and to think big. And he was always there for his family, saying blood was thicker than water. Even in the face of difficult news, Gary remained so very Gary. The afternoon he received his diagnosis, he somehow found a way to lighten the moment, telling everyone that the good news was that he would make it through dessert. And that was Gary, finding light in the hardest moments, giving us all strength when we needed it most, and reminding us, even then, to smile. And then there was golf, one of the greatest joys of his life. Over the years, his love of the game only grew. He played across the country, he belonged to many clubs, and all of them he cherished. And he managed to achieve an extraordinary number of holes in one, and well into the double digits. He was an exceptional and passionate golfer. He began playing at Erie Downs Country Club in Fort Erie, Canada, now Bridgewater Country Club, where he was the club champion when he was only 19 years old. And he enjoyed many victories alongside our dad. They won numerous father-son golf tournaments, including the Buffalo District Golf Association Father and Son Tournament and the Buffalo Downtown YMCA Golf Championship 4 times in the 1960s. And we were so proud of him when, at 15 years old, he managed to win the New York Junior Golf Tournament. But as impressive as all of that was, Gary's greatest pride and joy was his family. Cher, Jamie, Paula, Christian, Kelly, and his grandchildren. You were the world, and he loved you deeply, and he was so proud of each and every one of you. And as his sister, I will always carry a lifetime of memories of growing up together, of sharing family moments, of celebrating his successes, and of simply knowing he was always there. Gary passed on March 22nd, surrounded by love. And while our hearts are broken, we also know how blessed we were to have him in our lives. Gary lived a remarkable life, but more importantly, he lived a meaningful life. And like the beautiful gems he spent his life discovering, Gary's brilliance, his strength, and his love will endure forever.
Oh, Susan, we wish you so much strength. Thank you for sharing. Our next 2 speakers, dear friends of Gary, we'll have first Dr. Tom Lombardo, followed by Dr. Jim Smith.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Rabbi, Cantor, family, and friends. Well done, Susan. Very well done. Thank you. Gary did not enjoy long stories. He preferred the Reader's Digest versions, so I will be brief. There is so much to be said about Gary Grelick. He was talented, loyal, intelligent, innovative, kind, generous, and according to my wife, exceptionally good-looking. Didn't he have the greatest smile? I racked my brain trying to describe one characteristic that captures the essence of this fine man. We all know that Gary loved people and people loved Gary. What made him unique is that everyone was always glad to see him. Think about that. How many people do you know that you are always glad to see? He had the unique and amazing ability to make you feel special, and he was truly glad to see you, whether this encounter was for a few minutes or a few days. His focus was on you. What an extraordinary gift he had. Gary was very funny. His quick wit was legendary. So many stories. I will tell you only one that I feel is uniquely Gary. As Susan said, Gary attended Alliance College, a small school in Pennsylvania. There were less than 900 students enrolled. Gary excelled there in basketball, golf, and soccer, but not so much academically. In his own words, he had a great time. Gary always wanted to obtain a degree or a certificate from an Ivy League school. So he calls Cornell and inquired about one of those correspondence business courses. The woman in the admissions office told him he would need to send a copy of his college transcript. Gary explained that his school was closed and his grades were conveniently not available. She responded, "Nice try, Mr. Grelick, but schools that close always transfer their records to a surviving school." Gary, nonplussed, with his amazing quick wit, hesitated for a split second and suggested that rather than send his grades, he would forward his latest tax returns. All right? The woman was not amused. She told him this wouldn't help. That's not going to work. 2 weeks later, the same woman calls Gary, laughing, and said, "Mr. Grelick, the dean says, welcome to Cornell. The president can't wait to see you, and you will soon receive a call from the development office about their latest capital fund drive." Several copies of that certificate proudly hang in his office. Gary, on behalf of everyone who ever knew you, thank you for all the discounts at Bomai. Thank you for all the laughs. Thank you for your friendship. We cherished you and will miss you for the rest of our lives. Be proud of yourself. You did well. You made a difference. Love you, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lombardo. Dr. Smith.
Morning, Jim Smith. Cher, right about now, Grell is saying, why in the world did you let Smitty get up to talk? He's long-winded, he's verbose, his stories take forever, he drones on and on. He'll be up there all morning. Most of my friends would say, that's all accurate. So I'll try and keep a few stories short and sweet. Grell and I first met when he was 13 years old. He was at Erie Downs and I was at Brookfield, and we were playing junior golf together. He eventually joined Brookfield, and we played a lot of golf with John Dale and Bob Battaglia. And Battaglia was a better golfer than us back then because he putted good. And that irritated the Grell. So Grell was probably the first guy in Western New York to have the long putter. I think it was 1980 or 81, and he made up this long putter in his garage. And he became quite proficient with it. In 1973, the Grell called and said, there's a new golf course in East Aurora. It's spectacular. It's called Craigburn. Let's go play. So we went out and played, and it was high heather on both sides, and it was spectacular. So the Grell joined the club, and later in 1973, I joined and told my wife in 1974. Following year, Bev and I moved out to San Diego, and Grell called one day and he said, there are 2 lots for sale at Craigburn on the 14th hole, right next to each other. He says, I think we should buy them. So he bought one. I bought one in 74 and told my wife in 75. We lived next door to each other for about 20 years and played a lot of golf. We go out in the course around 7 or 7:30 at night, We'd hit a few balls. One night, we're over in the 17th hole. It's a little par 3. I hit 2 or 3 shots. Grell hits one just short of the green. Then he hits one up in the green pretty close. And then his third shot, he hits in the hole. He starts hooting and hollering, yelling, screaming, I'm in a hole-in-one. I said, Grell, time out. It was your third shot with an 8-iron. It's not a hole-in-one. He goes, no, he says hole-in-one. He runs up, he grabs his ball, he shows it to me, and he takes off. So next morning, I called Lonnie Nielsen, our pro at the club, and I said, explain what happened. I said, is that a hole-in-one? He goes, no, it's not a hole-in-one. So by noon that day, Grell had that golf ball in one of those little hole-in-one trophies in his office already. He had called about 50 people. So Nielsen and I were sworn to secrecy on that one. This is the first time I told that story. Grell always enjoyed being around the golf pros. We ran a pro-am at Craigburn after the Canadian Open. And Grell would study that PGA Tour guest guidebook, and he'd know the players' families, know the guys by their middle names, know all their kids, and that entire information. He became close friends with Lonnie Nielsen and Thorpe and Joey Sindelar and the Mike Hulbert and that Oklahoma State crowd, David and Danny Edwards and Bob Tway and Verplank and Willie Wood, E.J. Pfister. He was friends with Davis Love. He loved riding motorcycles and vacationing with that crowd, and they're all close friends. The Grell always tried to make people feel comfortable. And I'll tell you a story that exemplifies that. One year I was playing in the first tee Pro-Am in Pebble Beach with Jerry Jacobs. Grell came along just to kind of hang out. The event pairs 2 amateurs with a PGA Pro, a Champions Tour Pro, and a young kid that's on the first tee. So that year, we were playing with Bernhard Langer and this petite little 13-year-old girl. Her name was Amy. So she gets up on the first hole, and she can barely tee it up. The ball falls off 2 or 3 times. Finally, she tees off and hits a pretty good shot. So Grell comes walking over to her and says, how you doing? She goes, oh, she says, I'm so nervous. She said, my parents are taking pictures. I'm shaking like a leaf. She goes, I thought I was going to whiff. Grell puts his arm around her and says, don't be nervous. She said, Smith over there is nervous. He's playing with Bernhard Langer. Says, did you see his drive? It was a low liner into the right rough. He's behind the trees. She goes, really? He goes, yeah. She goes, oh, thanks. She says, I feel better, she said. So that was Grell in a nutshell. The final story I want to tell is about Skibo Castle. And Skibo Castle is a fancy club resort. It's up in northern Scotland near Dornoch. I think it was a home for an industrialist, Andrew Carnegie. So Grell and I are there, and you got to get dressed up in a coat and tie for dinner. And we're in this lounge area, and there's a picture of somebody on the piano. Wasn't sure. Grell says, who do you think that is? I said, I think they're in tuxedos. I said, I don't know, it's a couple of guys from Hollywood or something. And James, the butler, comes walking by, a very formal guy. And Grell says, James, who's this? He goes, oh, he says, they're members. Grell goes, oh, okay, I guess we're not members, fine. But armed with that knowledge, the Grell knew he was returning to Skibo Castle the following month for Jim and Alice and Derek's wedding. So he brings with him 10 photographs, big framed photographs, nice wooden frames. Gary playing golf, Gary and Cher on a motorcycle. And the morning that he leaves, he takes one and puts it right next to that picture on the piano. He puts one in the bar, he puts one in the pool table. He puts them everywhere. And he goes home. The next morning, around 9 o'clock, he's in his office. His secretary says, Gary, you got a call from Scotland. Gary goes, oh boy. Gets on the phone. Guy says, Mr. Grelick? He says, yeah. He says, This is James, the butler from Skibo Castle. Grell says, yeah. He says, Mr. Grelick, well done, well done. Yeah. That was vintage Grell. Grell, we're gonna miss you.
That was great. Who cares what he thinks? And it gives me more permission, too, because, on clergy, the tongue wears out last. Friends, actually, it's really important that we recognize that it is our responsibility to carry on and cherish and continue to make the memories of our loved ones live, and who can do that more than Gary's grandkids, who he just adored and loved as he shared Susan. I want to welcome them to come up and offer some remarks, be present with us here in this moment, whatever you want to say and share. Sure, come on up. Do you want to come stand together even if you're not? Yeah. Come on up. Come on up. Be strong, bro.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. It really means a lot to have everybody here. It's a real testament to show the friendships that he made along the way, and it means a lot to us as well. Really brings peace, so thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm just thankful that everyone's here today. And my grandpa brought light into all of our hearts. And I'm just very thankful to see everyone here. Thank you.
Wish you all strength. Thank you. Sorry for your loss. We try to honor the wishes of the deceased at all times, and so there was no not including what's next here.
Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure in whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go and make it happen. Take the world in the love's embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. I like the smoke and lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, go and make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We climb so high, I never want to die. Born to be wild. Sing it with me one more time. Here we go. Maybe a couple times. Born to be wild. One more time. Make it a good one. Born to be wild. One last time. Born to be wild.
Well, Gary was unique. That's a first for me. "5 days from now, we will sit at the Passover Seder table with an array of 6 symbolic foods. These foods help us tell the story of our ancestors' redemption from bondage in Egypt. As we tell the story, the meaning of each food is explained. The bitter herbs remind us of our ancestors' slavery in Egypt. The mushy charoset, made from fruit and nuts, reminds us of the bricks the Hebrews made in their hard labors. The shank bone reminds us of how our ancestors were protected from the angel of death. The matzah reminds us of how Pharaoh's chariots chased them all across the sea. But there's something curious. We're told to place a roasted egg, a 6th object on the plate, but the egg is given no explanation. The earliest Passover Haggadah was written by the great Babylonian 10th century rabbi Saadia Gaon. He understood something essential. The Seder is not a reenactment merely of what we gained, but a disciplined remembering of what we no longer have. The egg, it sits there quietly, asking whether redemption that ignores loss is really redemption at all. You've lost something terribly great. Your grandfather, your friend, your brother, your husband, your father. Gary was a treasure. Sure, it would be more accurate, as we know, to say that he created treasures for others. As we heard, he followed in his father, Bob's footsteps, becoming a jeweler. But just as in Torah, the story is told of how Isaac redug his father Abraham's wells, Gary learned how to dig deeper, literally bringing treasures out of the earth. He studied gemology and geology in addition to running Bomai. We heard he'd go on expeditions to Antwerp and Japan, to Brazil and Sri Lanka, often visiting places multiple times for gemstones and jewels. There's something else curious about the egg that relates to this moment. You know, if you think about it, most foods, what do they do when they get cooked? They get softer, but not the egg. The egg, it gets harder. Just as diamonds form under extreme pressure and temperature, Gary enjoyed the pressure. He loved his work. His focus was remarkable. And when he wasn't focused on building Bomai, he was focused on sports, right? He had an encyclopedic memory for such things. In a different life, he could have made a terrific sports announcer. As we just heard so clearly, he was passionate about golf. And all of these things were second to his family. It should be said that not only did he play exceptionally well from a young age, he taught golf to every single one of his grandkids. By the way, he loved them, whether they became enthusiastic about the sport or not. He was very loving in that way. And his grandkids, as you said, Susan, meant everything to him. Many of us know the old saying, you have to break eggs to make an omelet. And some of us might know the new saying, move fast and break things. Gary lived his life fast and with passion. He loved motorcycles and hot rods. He liked the steaks burnt to a crisp. He had an extraordinarily quick wit and loved telling stories. He was generous and a gentleman. His optimism was bottomless. He was perennially proud of who he was, keeping Bob and Millie, his parents' traditions in his home, in his life every day as he worked at Bomai, maintaining the legacy of his grandfather, the itinerant rabbi who stopped in all kinds of places. I hear about St. Catherine's, and I want to go back and rediscover that history, because surely that yichus led Gary to extraordinary things. Only he took it in a new direction, right? He was a faithful Jew, and because he was a Jew and a motorcycle enthusiast, he was a devotee of the 6 Point Riders Jewish Motorcycle Club. And he donned leather and fake tattoos. You know, real ones are discouraged in our tradition. I want to tell you a story from our tradition. It's been taught that one of the greatest rabbis of the 18th century, the Baal Shem Tov, also known as the Besht, he only rose to prominence at a late age, not until the age of 40, and he also died young at the age of 62. Nevertheless, in those 22 years the Besht lived, he changed the world, just as Gary transformed our world. Because the Besht died so young, it's true, he authored no books. The only writing that remains of him is a single letter that he wrote to his brother, and the accounts, attributions, and stories that his students continued to tell after his passing. It's told of the Besht that during his life he would travel itinerantly, maybe like Gary's grandfather, through the forests of western Ukraine from town to town. And each time before he set off on a trip, he would gather on his horse all of his students. They'd circle up, but before they could leave the Besht, he'd set off in a random direction, and his students would lose sight of him, just like it was hard to keep up with Gary. Yet something remarkable happened. When his students finally arrived at their destination, the Besht would already be there, waiting for them. Gary's always there for you. He hasn't gone anywhere. He loves you so much. Among Gary's passions for seeing the beauty of our world, beauty that sometimes takes a careful eye, for, we didn't say it yet, but his love was for ugly cars, I'm told. SSR Chevys and Plymouth Prowlers with their hardtops, with their retro looks and engines sticking up all over, and their unfortunately placed seat warmer switches, which makes a great practical joke when lent to a brother-in-law in Florida. He loved his slingshots and his motorcycles that looked like they could win any race. Gary may have lived his life fast, and it's true, the brightest stars burn out the quickest. Yet he is still here and always will be. He's waiting for you. The rabbis don't give the egg on the Seder plate a meaning. So here's an invitation. Make your own. Make your own meaning. Make your meaning one which contains the spirit that Gary possessed, and let his memory tend that fire within you like a gem, with its fire, its brilliance inside all your days. May that light continue to sparkle as you think of him constantly, every day, every moment. And as we will soon return his body to the earth, I want you to remember that his body, like all things, it's not lost. Let that inner geologist in all of us note that the carbon that comprised his body will be reused and recycled for eternity. So too his soul will be with you for all eternity. And so we pray, may Gary's memory grow as a source of blessing for all who loved him dearly. May his soul always sparkle like light through a precious gem, most of all for those who loved him most, his grandchildren. Gavin, Jaden, Nash, and Mac, and I'm missing one because I know there's 5. Am I missing one? 4. I got them all. Good. Sorry, I was worried. Wouldn't want to do that. His sister, Susan Grelick. His sons and daughters, Jamie and Paula, Christian and Kelly, and his wife, Cher. May you feel that love always. May it be a growing source of health and blessing, of wholeness and comfort for you. As we pray, too, that his memory is bound up in the memory of the eternal as a source of comfort and love, of life and blessing, not only to you, but to all Israel and to all our world. So I ask you kindly, please rise for the memorial prayer. El Malay Rachamim.
El Malay Rachamim, Shocheim Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim U'Tahorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Zvi ben Abba ben Bishel Shalach Le'olamo. Ba'al harachamim Yastirihu b'seter kenafav le'olamim V'yitzrur b'yitzrur ha'chaim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato Ve'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo V'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Gary Grelick, known among our people as Tzvi, Wolf, the son of Abba and Michael, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
The family will be observing a period of Shiva at the family's residence tomorrow evening from 7 to 9 with a minion service at 7:30. And again, 7 to 9 on Sunday at 10 Cragburn Lane in East Aurora at the family residence. For those of you going to the cemetery, we will be going to Holy Order Cemetery on Pine Ridge Road in procession. Please put your four-way flashes and your headlights on. This time, let me ask the pallbearers to kindly step to the aisle in the front as we escort Gary to his final resting place. And the family can follow behind as the casket exits. Again, for those of you going to the cemetery, please put your headlights and your four-way flashes on. For those of you do not have the family, thank you again for your attendance. May we all go away in peace.
we gotta make room. So maybe I move it out now. What's that? Okay, are you sure? All right, we'll help you get it. We'll help you get it out of the car. We will help you get it out of the car. Okay. I have a question. Was this plugged in, Larry? Do you know? With the white, is the white plug? Is that what plugs it in, or is it this one for this monitor? Both of them? They're both, oh yeah, so that has to be plugged in. So they didn't have it plugged in. Of course. All right. Yep, that's why I didn't hear myself today. Because it wasn't plugged in. And this can never, ever be like this. Test, test. Test, 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 test. No. No. Test, test. No. Test. Maybe? I don't know. Test, test. For what? No. Okay. And I'm not here at all, actually. Next week? Tonight. Because Abigail has their opening. Oh, right, I saw that. So, I'm not here at all. Okay, so let me get this out. Okay, so this is going to be... Yeah, I'll get it for you. I got it. I'm just going to turn this because Garrett wanted this to be turned the other way. For what? For the performance. He wants to be, the keyboard to be there. Yeah, because otherwise you can't see motion. So. Why did they turn it the other way? Who the heck? Okay, between you. It's not even. Yes. Goes motion. So in any case, and it's hard to know. It's not his place, so it's hard to know what's going to be the best. You know? There is one mic that's connected inside the gap. There is? Yeah. So maybe I should unplug. No, I wouldn't. Okay. I'm going to turn it around then. I mean, there's enough room. That's the cord that's hanging out. Yes. Okay, don't worry about this. I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Sure. Yes, I'm so sure. Where are they tuning it? They already did. She already did. They should. Yeah, they're going to get lost. But they weren't. That's what I'm saying. They're supposed to. Yeah, where's E? Grab E. They're supposed to all be lost for the show. And they were not. All right, let me go grab E. Well, he's going to be here Sunday too, right? Well, I did have this monitor off today because of the
two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.